As we mentioned earlier, we're not going to adjust our stock position unless the stock moves by at least $2.50. And the interesting thing here is we're probably going to try to look at situations during, at the end of the trading day. In other words, we don't want to be sitting next to our computer all day with these things. There's a chance the stock might move up $2, $3 intraday. It might revert. If it does, we don't want to get carried away with it. We may just leave the position as it is. But what we want to do is we don't want to get carried away with over trading during the day. The good news for this particular position was that the stock, over the course of 2 weeks, it only moved more than $2.50 a day just a handful of times. And remember that you don't want to make too many adjustments because you are going to be buying the stock higher and selling the stock lower every time you buy and sell stock. So we started out with a negative delta. We know that the stock went up, and we know that we didn't have an initial stock position. Every time the stock goes up $2.50, we're going to buy some shares. We're going to buy 100 shares. Every time the stock goes down $2.50, we're going to sell shares. So as you can see, there are a couple of points that we're going to go after, namely this particular day, a particular day, November 29th, when the stock went down $4.70, or November 30th. The next day when the stock went up by almost $3, went up $2.94, and then a couple days after that when the stock went up $4.27. So we're going to go ahead and address these particular situations to show you what we're going to do. November 28th, the stock opened higher, and when it was up 250, we were supposed to buy 100 shares. So the stock closed up $5.01, and we ended up buying another 100 shares, so that we were now long a total of 200 shares on the close. So big position, but we ended up protecting ourselves. And notice what ended up happening. The stock went up $5.01. And as you can see, there are two moves in there of at least $2.50. So when the stock first moved up $2.50, we bought 100 shares. When it moved up another $2.50, we bought another 100 shares. So right now we're long 200 shares at the close of the day. On December 1st, the stock opens lower, and when it was down $2.50, we sold 100 shares. So in hindsight, you're going to think to yourself, I wish I hadn't bought the extra 100 shares when the stock was up $5. Well, that's hindsight trading, and we don't do that, okay? Because you don't know. You didn't know whether the stock was going to go down the next day or whether it was going to go up. So rather than try to spend all this time thinking that we can predict things, we're going to make the right decision based on the information we have, not on the information we hope to have. The stock then, as the stock went down $5, because it went down to $2.50 multiples, we had to sell another 100 shares on the close, which then flattened out our position. So you notice we bought 200 shares and we sold 200 shares, and because of the nature in which these things were done, in some of the shares we bought and some of the shares we sold at about the same price, basically we lost about $219 on the stock transactions, just the way it worked out. This is going to happen through gamma scalping. You have now locked in a guaranteed loss, but keep in mind that you are willing to take a guaranteed small loss in order to avoid the potential big loss. That is the notion of reverse gamma scalping. Okay? On December 2nd, the market rose $2.94, so just over $2.50, and we decided, we can go ahead, and the reason that we looked at this at $2.94 is we would have loved to have bought the stock right at $2.50 as the stock went up $2.50. It's not a perfect science. sometimes you're going to have, the stock's going to move away from you by a little bit more than 250 before you're able to place the trade to buy the stock or sell it or whatever you need to do. That's fine. So if we didn't get in until 294, we go ahead and address our position and buy the 100 shares at that point. Good thing that we did, on December 8th, we have another update in the stock, and when the stock got to 82.34, we bought another 100 shares. So we now have 200 shares in the position. Since the stock didn't go up a full $5, we didn't buy another 100 shares. Okay? But one of the things we can do, as it says in the slide, we will do it on the close. One of the things we can do is we can decide at the close of the day, if you want, you can actually go ahead and buy whatever the residual 100 shares if it helps you sleep better at night. Okay, so again, some of these things are going to be judgment calls. This is the math of the stock trades, and as you can see, there are times when we bought stock. We had the first two purchases of stock, followed by the 2 sales, and as the stock went up, we then had to purchase stock. So we ended up net long 300 shares of stock, and because of where the stock settled, we actually ended up making $506 net on that particular position. So again, it's not a lot of money, but it's a good thing that we made some of this money in the stock position, and it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you do have a small loss. All right, so you don't always make money on the stock position. Sometimes you do take a hit on it. Typically, you do take a hit on it. What's been happening here is that because the stock has been going up and up and up and up, the purchase of all our stock has allowed us to make money as the stock goes up. We now have to weigh that against what's been happening in the option position in order to see what we've really made. But if you think about it, we bought the 75 straddle. The stock is around $85, so our straddle has lost. If you hold on, if you're looking at it, the stock is the straddle has technically lost about $10 of the 13 that we collected. Okay, because the straddle, the best we can do right now is buy the straddle back for about $10 if it closes here at expiration. We sold it at 13. We can buy it back as cheaply as maybe 10. So we're not, again, notice that we're not getting the full $13 of our straddle. We're only going to get $10 of, we're only going to get $3 in the straddle because we have to buy it back for at least 10. So it's a good thing that we made money through reverse gamma scalping, because otherwise we wouldn't have had as much to make on the total position. In fact, as we look at our position, the straddle is now worth $11.25, most of this being real value. Therefore, we're not terribly hopeful that this straddle is going to expire worthless. It's going to expire somewhere around $10 or $11. And that being the case, as we see our options, we see that our deltas on just the options are minus 730. So good thing that we've been able to buy some stock along the way to minimize those deltas. As we see, we sold the straddle at 13. It's now worth about $11.25. That means that basically we have about a $2.75 profit on the straddle. Couple that with about the about the $5 profit on the stock, we end up with about a net $700 gain on the position. And the reason we ended up with about a $700 gain as opposed to about a $250 gain is due to the reverse gamma scalping.